For over 200 years, the Rosetta Stone has been treated as the single greatest key in the history of archaeology, the object that finally unlocked ancient Egyptian writing after 14 centuries of total silence. But here's something most people don't realize. We've actually known exactly what the Rosetta Stone says since 1822. There's no secret message hiding inside it. So when you start seeing videos claiming AI just decoded something new and terrifying buried in this stone, it's worth asking a very simple question. What is AI actually doing to this text right now? And why does it matter if we've already read every word? The real answer is genuinely interesting, just not in the way most of those titles want you to believe. Stick around, because the actual story involves real cutting-edge AI research on ancient languages, just applied somewhere very different from where the clickbait wants you looking. And if you like separating real research from internet noise, subscribe now. Let's start with what the Rosetta Stone actually is, because the real history is honestly more interesting than most of the mystery framing around it. It's a broken chunk of granodiorite stone, discovered in 1799 by French soldiers during Napoleon's Egyptian campaign, found near the town of Rosetta in the Nile Delta. What made it instantly valuable to scholars was a simple but powerful feature. The same official text appears carved into the stone 3 separate times, once in ancient Greek, once in Egyptian Demotic script, and once in Egyptian hieroglyphs. Since ancient Greek was already fully understood by European scholars, it gave them a direct translation key to work backward from, matching known Greek words and names against the mysterious hieroglyphic symbols beside them. The actual decoding process took over 2 decades and involved several scholars building directly on each other's work. Swedish diplomat Johan David Åkerblad made early progress on the Demotic script around 1802, figuring out that Egyptian scribes sometimes wrote foreign names phonetically, meaning the script could represent sounds, not just picture-based ideas. British polymath Thomas Young picked up that thread between 1814 and 1819, focusing specifically on the cartouches, the oval rings, Egyptian scribes used to frame royal names, and successfully matched several Greek royal names to their hieroglyphic equivalents. Finally, in 1822, French scholar Jean-François Champollion made the decisive breakthrough, proving that hieroglyphs represented sounds as well as ideas throughout the entire writing system, not just in foreign names, and using that insight to fully crack ancient Egyptian for the first time in over 1,000 years. That discovery didn't just decode one stone, it opened up every hieroglyphic inscription across Egypt to translation for the first time since the writing system had fallen out of use. So what does the stone actually say? This is the part that tends to disappoint people expecting some dramatic hidden prophecy. The text is a decree issued in 196 BC by a council of Egyptian priests, honoring the young pharaoh Ptolemy V Epiphanes on the anniversary of his coronation. It's largely administrative and ceremonial in tone, praising the king's generosity, listing tax exemptions and temple privileges he granted, describing donations he made to various temples, and formally establishing a royal cult in his honor, complete with specific instructions for how his image should be displayed and worshipped alongside Egypt's traditional gods. It's essentially a piece of official government propaganda from over 2,000 years ago, the ancient equivalent of a formal state proclamation thanking a monarch for tax relief and temple funding. Historians have since discovered several other similar decrees from the same era, including the Decree of Canopus from 238 BC and an earlier Memphis decree from around 218 BC, showing this kind of trilingual royal decree was a fairly standard practice for the Ptolemaic dynasty, not some singular unique event. None of that is remotely terrifying. So where is AI actually coming into this story, and why do so many videos frame it like something dark just got uncovered? The honest answer is that serious AI research is genuinely happening in the field of ancient language decipherment right now, just not on a text that's already been fully translated for 2 centuries. Google DeepMind, for example, developed a system called Ithaca, a machine learning model trained specifically to help historians restore damaged, missing, or illegible sections of ancient Greek inscriptions, and to estimate both the geographic origin and approximate date of a given text based on patterns in the language itself. In testing, Ithaca reportedly achieved around 62% accuracy restoring missing text on its own, and when historians used it as a collaborative tool, rather than relying on it alone, their combined accuracy rate climbed to around 72%, a meaningful improvement over traditional manual restoration methods. Separately, an entirely different and genuinely remarkable AI effort has been unfolding around the Herculaneum Scrolls, a library of ancient texts carbonized and buried by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD, so fragile that physically unrolling them destroys them instantly. Researchers running the Vesuvius Challenge have used machine learning models to virtually unroll these scrolls using CT scan data and then detect faint traces of ink invisible to the naked eye. successfully reading passages from scrolls that have been completely unreadable for nearly 2,000 years without ever physically opening them. That's the real frontier of AI and ancient text research right now, and it's honestly more exciting than anything a fabricated Rosetta Stone plot twist could offer, because it's producing genuinely new information from texts nobody has ever been able to read before, rather than reprocessing something that's already fully understood. Researchers have also applied similar machine learning pattern recognition to enormous archives of cuneiform tablets from ancient Mesopotamia, using AI to help identify, sort, and even partially translate thousands of clay tablets faster than human specialists working alone could ever manage, since there simply aren't enough trained cuneiform scholars in the world to work through the backlog by hand. So when a video claims AI just decoded the Rosetta Stone and found something terrifying, what's actually more likely happening, if anything real is happening at all, is one of two things. Either a language model has been asked to analyze the already known text of the decree and describe its rhetorical patterns, things like how repeated phrases reinforce royal legitimacy, or how the language mirrors propaganda techniques used in other ancient political decrees, which is a legitimate and genuinely interesting angle for a linguist to explore, just not remotely a hidden secret. Or, more commonly, it's simply a fabricated hook built entirely around reusing a well-known artifact's name to attract clicks, with no actual new analysis behind it at all. There's a real, more subtle way to look at the Rosetta Stone's content that doesn't need any exaggeration to be interesting, though. If you read the actual decree closely, what you're looking at is an extraordinarily well-preserved snapshot of how ancient political power actually justified and maintained itself. The priesthood, who wrote this decree, weren't just honoring their king out of pure affection. They were formalizing a mutually beneficial arrangement, tax breaks and temple funding from the crown, in exchange for religious legitimacy and a state-sanctioned cult of personality granted by the priesthood back to the king. That kind of transactional relationship between political power and religious authority runs through nearly every ancient civilization we have written records for, and the Rosetta Stone happens to preserve one of the clearest, most literal, written examples of exactly how that arrangement was formally negotiated and publicly announced. It's not a secret. It's just rarely framed as bluntly as it actually reads. There's also something worth appreciating about the stone's physical journey that often gets skipped over. After the French surrendered to British forces in Egypt in 1801, the stone was handed over to Britain and has been housed at the British Museum in London ever since, where it remains one of the most visited objects in the entire museum. For decades after its arrival, the stone's surface was actually covered in white chalk to make the inscriptions easier to read, and then coated in a protective wax layer to shield it from the fingers of visitors touching it. That coating gradually darkened the surface over time, leading to a long-standing, completely inaccurate belief that the stone was made of black basalt. It wasn't until a proper cleaning in 1999 that conservators removed the old chalk and wax, revealing the stone's actual dark gray color, along with a distinctive pink mineral vein running across one corner, later matched geologically to a specific granodiorite quarry near Aswan in southern Egypt, giving researchers a much clearer picture of exactly where the stone itself was physically quarried before it was ever inscribed. So here's the honest version of this story. The Rosetta Stone has no hidden terrifying message. It never did, and there's genuinely nothing new for AI to uncover in text that's already been fully translated and cross-checked by scholars for 2 centuries. What AI is actually doing, in real, serious academic research happening right now, is reading things humans genuinely cannot read on. Their own virtually unrolling scrolls destroyed by a volcano, restoring inscriptions too damaged for the human eye to reconstruct, sorting through cuneiform archives too vast for existing scholars to process in several lifetimes. That's the real frontier, and it's a much better story than a manufactured plot twist about a text that's been sitting fully translated in a museum case since before most of our great-grandparents were born. So here's a question worth sitting with. If AI can genuinely read texts that have been completely unreadable for thousands of years, scrolls destroyed by Vesuvius, tablets too numerous for human scholars to ever fully catalog, what do you think the next major ancient discovery is actually going to be? And do you think it'll come from a brand new dig, or from something we've already had sitting in a museum drawer this entire time? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more stories separating real breakthroughs from internet noise, subscribe now, because there's plenty more of this coming.